I was a pastor of a local church, and there was a family that didn't like me. They didn't like what I was doing. They didn't like the changes that I was making. And so they made my life really difficult. They were trying to get me to quit. They wanted me to give up. And so they did a lot of stuff to hurt me. Hurt me physically. They tried to hurt me physically. They tried to hurt me mentally. They told a lot of lies on me. They would convince people in the church to give their money to somewhere else so that it would make my life difficult, where I couldn't feed my kids or I couldn't pay my bills. And they worked really hard at it for a period of time until they finally got fed up and they just left. They left the church. And about 3 weeks after they had left the church, I came home from an errand and I noticed that the individual's car was in the parking lot. And so I went over to the church. We had lived real close to the church. I went over to the church and opened up the door. And when I opened up the door, on this side of the stage of that particular church was my son's drum set. And it was sitting right there. And, we had instruments on for Sunday morning music and stuff like that. And I realized that when I went up towards him, I called him by his name, and he turned around because it startled him, but he had a knife. And what he had done was he had cut up my son's drums. And he turned around when he knew that I had busted him from what he was doing. And he said, "If I could get away with it, I would cut you." And he was like just 2 feet away from me. And I remember at that moment that I had to make a decision. And that was probably the hardest decision that I could make at that time. And I'll come back to that decision in a little bit. I've been up since about 3 a.m. this morning thinking about how I'm going to communicate one of the hardest subjects that we will deal with in life. And I realize that I'm talking to some younger folks, I'm talking to some older folks, but I haven't slept well because I've been concerned that I won't do this right, that I'll mess it up. And it's a fact that I have to deal with something that's going to hit all of us very hard, because every person in this room and every person listening on the internet has been hurt by someone. More than once, probably. Some of you have been extremely hurt. Some of you have been physically abused, mentally abused. You're carrying around the weight of what people has done to you. All of us here, at one time or another, we've been hurt. And the thing that I have to talk about today, if I'm going to help you get better, is something that we will struggle with throughout our whole life if we don't learn how to do it right. And that's called forgiveness. And so when I got up in the middle of the night last night, I was like, how do I tell somebody to forgive when they have been so abused, so bad by someone that they trusted? How do I get a teenager to understand that we've got to forgive, or we're going to get stuck in our life? And so I began to write down notes, and I've got 3 pages of notes, and we've got some things that we're going to put up on the screen. And it's not I'm not going to do a lot of fun stuff at all today. We're not going to have another video. I'm just going to talk to you for a little bit. And I'm going to hopefully get to a place of where you can understand why it's important to forgive. I had every reason to call the police on that man that cut my son's drums. I had every reason to turn around and run out when he threatened me with the knife. But I didn't do either one of them. I stood there for a few minutes, and I made a decision. So I want to start with some facts to begin with here today, okay? And fact number 1, we're going to bring it up, about forgiveness. Fact number 1 is pretty simple. No matter how old you are or how young you are, you're going to get hurt by people. People hurt people. They do it in different ways. We have different ways. I have close to 80 people sitting in this auditorium today, and there's 80 different ways that people have hurt you. Okay? People are going to hurt you. I call this, in fact, number 1, in fact, it's at the bottom, it's in parentheses. Can everybody see what's in parentheses at the bottom? What do I call it? People pain. No matter what I do, no matter how old I get, no matter how well successful I become in business, there will always be people pain. The question I have to understand is that it's not Is it going to happen? It's going to happen. People are going to cause me to have pain. Some of you, with the way that you act out in one way or another, if I don't handle it correctly, could bring me pain. How you tear up walls, or you destroy this, or you cuss me out when I haven't done anything, or you're mad, I can get hurt from that. But the fact is this: people are going to cause you pain. Everybody with me? Shake your head if you're with me. Take a big deep breath, okay? Again, I've been up since 3 o'clock because I know that what I'm going to do is going to stir up some emotions, okay? I know that when we come here and we spend time with Pastor Bob, that there's times, because some of you have come up to me and say, I feel this way, or I feel that way, or I kind of wanted to cry today, but I held me back, or Pastor Bob, you really almost had me crying today, or I get sad in how I feel, okay? Or you might even get mad because it reminds you of something that maybe has happened to you. My goal is not to get you to feel sad today. My goal is not to get you to feel mad today. My goal is not to get you to try to feel like you want to cry today. My goal is to talk about the real issues that we need to deal with, and so that the therapist that's sitting in the back can work with you on a more private moment so that we can work through people pain. Would everybody, could I ask let me ask a really, really hard question that I need your help with. For everyone that's been hurt by people one way or another that's sitting in this room, would you raise your hand? Everybody. Thank you. So you're not alone, right? The question is, how do we deal with people pain? How do we deal with it? And if we deal with it wrong, things go wrong. In fact, there's 3 signs in here. There's no parking, there's a stop sign, and there's road work ahead. When that individual cut up the drums and then came after me with the knife, and he wanted to hurt me physically, he was so mad at me, okay? At that moment in my life, everything stopped because that barrier was in the way. That became a stop sign in my life. Now, I can tell you what happens if I allow if I allow the pain that people bring on me to stop me where I'm going. Eventually, I'm going to park on it, and I'm going to stay on it, and it's going to be in my life always, and it's going to begin to change the way things were supposed to be. Well, why does people hurt? Because people are imperfect. Well, why did my mom hurt me? Why did my dad hurt me? Why did my brother hurt me? Why did my foster family hurt me? Why did my best friend hurt me? Why did these people hurt me the way that they hurt me? Because people are not perfect. And most of the time, get ready for this, you ready? Hurting people hurt people. I'm going to say it again. Hurting people hurt people. The individual that cut up my drums, he was a hurting man. He was hurting because I messed up his image of what the church should look like. He was hurting at the time that he wanted to take it out on me. So hurting people hurt people. Would everybody agree with me on that? With the experiences that you've had in life and the people pain that's been in your life, you have to get with me and understand that I understand where we've all come from, and there's some things that's going to go on here. We can hide and say, you know what? It's not people that hurt me, just bad situations that's come on. That's all right. That's kind of how we deal with it sometimes. But if we'll be honest with ourselves, someone has hurt us. And if we're not careful, I got to say it. God, just help me say it right. And we stop because we don't know how to deal with it. So we get stuck. We stop in this part and we go into a no parking zone, and then we start doing all kinds of bad things that begins to get all the attention on us. And before you know it, everybody thinks we're bad people when it's really someone else that hurt us. We just didn't process it right. Would I be okay to say that? Thank you. Fact number 2. You're going to feel pain in life. Pain comes. People are going to hurt you. Hurting people hurt people. And you're going to feel the pain. There's nothing I can change. I can't do anything that's going to change that in your life. There's always going to be someone there, no matter how old you get, that's going to be imperfect, that's going to do something to you that's going to cause you to feel pain. I'm not going to lie to you. I can't make it a rosy. It's the way it is. You could talk to any adult here. There will be people, even the older you get, that's going to hurt you. The question is it going to stop you? Is it going to cause you to go into a no parking zone? Or are you going to work through it the way you need to work through it? Number 3. Fact number 3. The question is, when you understand that you're going to get hurt by people and that you're going to feel their pain, you're going to feel pain. The third fact is this. You're going to make a decision. It's not whether, well, I might make a decision. No, you're going to make a decision. 2 decisions that you're going to make. Number 1, will you forgive? Number 2, will you hold on to it and let it define you? Now, Pastor Bob, you don't know what this guy, you don't know what this girl, you don't know what these people did to me. How in the world can I forgive them? Same way as the man that did the damage to my son's drum and then pulled the knife on me. Same question is, how can you forgive him when he became so personally involved that he wanted to end your life or he wanted to hurt you so bad? So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of understand that there's 3 signs. What's this sign say? Everybody help me. What's this sign say? What's this sign say? Okay. Do it again. Would everybody be okay to say that we're a work in progress? As long as we breathe today, as long as we wake up and we look at the sun shining or the cloud or the snow blowing or whatever it is, we've got a chance for things to change. Things can change for all of you. It's how you look at it and how you deal with it that will cause the change to happen in the way it needs to happen. We have some misunderstandings when it comes to forgiveness. Because, go back, that one right there. Will you forgive? Well, how can I forgive? I want to go through some misunderstandings about forgiveness. The first misunderstanding, we don't have it up on the screen, but listen to this. The first misunderstanding is that when you forgive someone, it doesn't mean that instantly you will be able to trust them. In fact, forgiveness and trust is 2 different things. So there's this misunderstanding. Well, if I forgive this person, then I'm supposed to trust them from now on. Nope. That's not what forgiveness is. Well, if I forgive them, then eventually I'm going to have to trust them if I'm going to develop a relationship with them. I can tell you right now, since the day the guy cut up my drums and pulled the knife on me, I've seen him twice. I don't have a relationship with him. I've seen him twice at Giant Eagle, and both times he looks like he loses all the blood in his face and he walks the other direction. And I've tried to reach my hand out to him and call him by his name and say, "How are you doing?" And he walks around me like I'm the plague. And it's been years and years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago that happened to me. All right? I don't trust him. Understand? So when forgiveness comes in, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to trust the person that's done you wrong. That's not what forgiveness is all about. We okay? I'm going to keep asking this because some of you are just staring at me. I want to make sure that I'm making a connection. Okay? Number 2, a misunderstanding number 2, is that when I forgive someone, that means automatically that I need to forget what they've done to me. Wrong. That's not part of forgiveness. I can't, no matter how much I try, I can't forget what he did to me. I can't forget how he was wanting to physically ruin me or end my life. I can't forget it. It's there every day. It is as clear in my brain today, 20 years later, as it was the day that it happened. A misunderstanding is if we forgive somebody, we need to forget. And if we can't forget what we've done to them, that we've automatically have not forgiven them. That's a misunderstanding. Once that's been done to you and that pain has been done to you, there is nothing I can do or you can do that can make that thinking go away. It's going to be there. In fact, it should be another sign up here that says caution, because we have to be careful when we forgive someone. Maybe that person is so wounded and hurt so bad that they can't get their life together. Nothing says that we're required to be friends with them anymore. Nothing says that we're to trust them anymore. Nothing. It's a misunderstanding. Another misunderstanding about forgiveness is that if I forgive somebody, that means I'm automatically weak. What you should have done, Pastor Bob, was you should have just decked the guy. Should have just took that knife out of his hand and shoved it in his ear. Come on, think about it. I'm not the only one that thinks that way, am I? Huh? Should have put him up against the wall. Beat the snot out of him. Right? No, when we forgive doesn't mean that we're weak. In fact, it's completely opposite. It takes more courage and strength to forgive than it does to not forgive. It's a misunderstanding that's out there. Fact number 4. Say it. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It is not easy. Why? Because my brain reminds me of what they've done to me. My thinking comes back all the time. I'm reminded of the past of what they've put me through, and if I'm not careful, it will determine that I'm not going to forgive them. It is a hard thing to do. Forgiveness. And let me just kind of read this, so hopefully you can hang with me. Forgiveness is giving up the past. It's giving, let me say it again, let me start over. Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be different. Let me say it again. Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be different. So when we look at forgiveness, and we understand that it's hard, the thing we have to understand is that when we forgive, we have to get past the whole thing that I wish that had never happened. Anybody ever said that in this building? I wish if only, what? Fill in the blanks. If only they didn't do it. If only I was better. Hello? If only I did something different, they wouldn't have done this. See, that could have hit me on the day that he was ripping up my drums and wanting to put the knife to my throat. Well, if I would have handled the church situation different, maybe he wouldn't be upset with me. He wouldn't be in the position that he's in today. He wouldn't be so mad if I would have handled it different. If only I would have done something different. You see how the people pain? Hold on, get ready, take a deep breath. People pain, they want you to start feeling it's your fault. And so the first thing that we do is we start blaming ourselves. Well, if I was better, well, if I hadn't done this at home, well, if I would have listened, if I would have done that, we live with all this regret in our life. Because we think that if we would have done something different, then the hurt and the pain wouldn't have came. People hurt people. Hurting people hurt people. Or maybe we ask the question this: it should have been this way and not this other way. My mom and dad got a divorce because I was bad. My mom would have got off drugs if I would have done something different. If I would have been more respectful, they would still want me. if I wouldn't have been so bad, then they would have wanted me around them more often. It's my fault that it's turned out the way it's turned out. It's all false. The people we need to forgive, most of the time, don't deserve it. That's why it's so hard. The people that we need to forgive, they really probably don't deserve it. He didn't deserve to be forgiven. I was at a crossroad. I was at a stop sign. I had to make my mind up at that point. What was I going to do? Was I going to hold on to the pain that he was giving me, or was I going to forgive him for what he did? I had to make that decision at that moment while he was flashing a knife in my face. What was I going to do? I was at a crossroad. And here's the thing about it. If you haven't been able to forgive the people that have hurt you so far, you're at the crossroad. And you're in a no parking sign. And you're not going to have freedom in your life. Because there's things that's put in place now that because of the anger and the anguish. Let's talk about what hurt us. When someone hurt us, have you ever not got angry when someone hurt you? You get angry every time. It's part of the cycle. I'm hurt, I get angry. Then if I don't take care of that anger, I get bitter. Some of you take care of that anger by tearing things up. Some of you take care of that anger by screaming and hollering. Some of you take that anger out on yourself. Because you're at a crossroad. You're in a no parking area. And so when you start to do self-harmers that cut themselves, it's because they feel that they're not good enough to not be able. They need to feel the pain because they're responsible for it. It's a lie. I'm not saying you're a bad person if that's the struggle that you have. Can I just be real with us today? My goal is to get you home. My goal is to get you to a place in life that you can have freedom like you've never had before. My goal is that when you leave here today, it's the beginning of a new journey that you don't have to have therapists in your life. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to have more freedom than you've had before. That's why I got up so early this morning, because I realized the importance of this day means so much to me because it means so much to you if I can get you to understand it. I love you all so individually. I might not know exactly everything it is about you, but I care about you, and I don't really care if you agree with how I think or not, because it doesn't change my mind of who you are. I think every one of you can be world changers. I think every one of you can take the bad things that's happened in your life and the bad choices that you've made and become someone great in life. That's what I believe. And that's why today is so important to me. We look at it and we say people don't need and they don't deserve to be forgiven when they do wrong to us. Or we feel that they need to change before we can go and say, I forgive them. Well, if they change, then I can forgive them. Let me tell you something. People that live with unforgiveness in their heart do not change. And that is not your fault. That is their issue. Listen, we have the right to feel anger, bitterness. We even have a right to feel hate. And we are justified when people do us wrong to feel all those things. But if you choose to stop there, you will end up in the no parking zone, and you will not fulfill what's fully in your life. So the million-dollar question is, Pastor Bob, how do I forgive? How do I forgive? Tell me, Pastor Bob, how do I forgive? Anybody want to know? Anybody see the importance of forgiveness? Shake your head if you're with me. You're not falling asleep on me. You want to know how to forgive? It's not that hard, but it is that hard. First of all, there's two people involved that needs to be part of this process. You and the other person. Well, the other person died. I can't get around the other person. I'm not talking about the other person being near you. But there's two people that need to be forgiven. First of all, and this is what happens with teenagers more than ever, is that when something goes wrong and someone has hurt you or you've hurt someone else, the first thing that you have to do is you need to forgive yourself. How many times has somebody in this organization or somebody sitting in this thing right here that you guys turn around and you've done something bad and Pastor Bob doesn't even come up to you and ask you about why you did bad? How many times have you guys, I've got people here that's done thousands of dollars worth of damage to the property. I don't come up and say, you're out of here because you did all this damage. When I put in a notice or when we tell the county that it's time for that child to move to somewhere else because they're not doing the program, it's only for one reason. It's because I've come to the conclusion that that young person will not let me help them by the people I've put around them. And it takes a long time for me to come to that determination. See, I believe in all of you. But there's two people that's got to be forgiven. Number one, you're first. You got to learn how to forgive yourself. If not, you're at the stop sign. And you're eventually going to the no parking area. Number two, you got to forgive the other person. Let's talk about yourself. Sometimes we feel we need what we need to change or that we need to fix ourselves before we can forgive ourselves. Well, if I was not this bad, then I could forgive myself. But I've done too much bad stuff. I've hurt too many people. I've let too many people down. There's no way. I've got to get better before I can forgive myself. No, it's wrong. You can forgive yourself right now. Before you leave here today, you can start the process. Anybody want to know what the process is? If you do, raise your hand. Anybody want the process on how to do it? I'll share it with you. But it's a process. It takes time. What does it do? It's road work. Now, I just got back from Florida. I went down to Florida to do a little bit of fishing, and I came back real quick. It was a real quick trip down and back. And we were driving and doing really good, not having any problems at all. And all of a sudden, I come up to a construction zone, and the traffic just dies. It goes to nothing. And we're sitting there for about a half an hour. And it was because the road was being worked on, and it messed up everything. It messed up the flow of the day. It messed up the flow of the traffic. We were backed up for like 3 miles. Had to sit there for almost a half an hour and wait to get through. And here it was 3 or 4 guys working on the side of the road, but they had closed the road down to one lane, and it caused the road to have construction, and it slowed me down. When we begin to work on ourselves, we have to be concerned that we don't try to do it overnight, that it takes a process. That's why you have case managers. That's why you have therapists, is because they understand the process of the road work under construction. They know the process of what it's going to do. So when we leave here today, I'm going to give us some instructions that we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to have a band up on the stage for the whole time that we're here. I think it's next week. It's next week. Yeah, next week we're going to have we brought in a live band that's going to be doing music for you, kind of on a Christmas theme of stuff. It's going to be a good time, right? We're going to break up on this, and then the following week we're going to come back to this a little bit more because I'm going to give you some homework assignments to work with you. I've already talked with your therapist, but we're going to have some homework assignments that I need you to do. Okay? Well, it's not deep homework assignment. Okay? So we have to do ourselves, right? Everybody with me? Say yourselves. Right? Anybody sitting here today thinking that that's going to be hard to do? How do I forgive myself? Okay, we're going to work on it. All right? Number 2, the other people that have done us wrong, we get this mindset that they need to change before you can forgive them. That's false. So how do you forgive? You ready? Here it is. The person that's done you wrong, the guy that cut my drums, Andy's drums, put the knife towards me, This is what I did. I looked at him and I called him by his name. And I said, we'll say Mike was his name. That's not his name. I said, Mike, I forgive you. And I went towards him and I grabbed him. And I wrapped my arms around him. And I hugged him. And I kept on saying, I forgive you. I forgive you. And at the moment, I felt his hand come up behind me with the knife. And I'm sitting there going, he's going to stab me. And I just said, I forgive you. What I did was I moved off of the stop sign. I didn't park in the area of what he had done to me. And immediately I let my will take over. This is what I said to him. I said, Mike, you don't owe me anything. You want to know why you can't forgive? It's because you want something in return for the forgiveness. When someone does you wrong, you immediately want to look at them and say, well, I'll forgive them if they make right what they've done wrong. When you forgive someone, you cancel their debt. Doesn't mean that you go have dinner with them. Doesn't mean that you go be friends with them anymore. You just say, you know what? You don't owe me nothing. You owe me nothing. And when you do that, freedom comes to you where you don't have to live with the guilt and shame of what they've done to you. You say, that's too simple. That's why we're going to work on it for the next 2 or 3 weeks, right, therapist? Because it's not simple. The first thing you have to do is you probably should identify the pain. Maybe on a little Post-it note with your therapist. And just let them keep it with you. And there should be a name on there. And if you can't forgive yourself, then it should be your name and should be an example of what you've done that you can't forgive. That's the first thing that you have to do. We're going to walk through the steps of forgiveness is what we're going to do. But the first step that you've got to understand is that person doesn't owe me anything. He didn't have to pay for the drums that he tore up. He didn't have to come back to church and apologize to me. He owes me nothing. Am I having dinner with him? No. Do I trust him? No. Do I hate him? No. He owes me nothing. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness says, you don't owe me anything. See, when mom does us wrong, or dad does us wrong, or a family member does us wrong, or someone's done us wrong, we immediately want to turn around and say, well, when they make it right, then I'll forgive them. You will always be stuck in the stop sign. You got to be to the position of where you've got to look at them and what they've done to you, or look at what they've done to you and say, you know what? They're wrong people. They've done me wrong. They owe me nothing. When you look in the mirror and you say, oh, look at all the stuff that I've done. Then you look in the mirror and you say, you know what? I'm not perfect, but I'm going to forgive myself. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I've made mistakes. Let me say that there's 3 things that forgiveness, you have to understand it. It is an act, it is not a feeling. Well, I don't feel like I've forgiven them. I don't feel like I'm forgiven. It has nothing to do with your feelings. It has everything to do with your will. It has everything with your will. It has everything to do with your will. It has nothing to do with your feelings. Did I feel like I needed to forgive him? Nope. Did I want, at a moment, bust him upside the head? Yep. Did I want to call the cops? Yep. And then sometimes things like that will happen no matter what. There was a guy that went into a school building up not far from us here years ago, and he shot up this Amish school building, and he killed 47 kids in this one-room school building. And before the day was over with, the Amish community came about, and they gave money to the mother of the individual that shot and killed all their kids. They gave money to the family, and as they were giving money to the family, they said, we forgive him. Because when you don't forgive, you get stuck with all that on you. When you forgive them, you're saying they owe me nothing, and freedom comes to you. I can't do it, Pastor Bob. I can't forgive. I can't. No, you might not be able to forget what you've done, but you can physically, by will, tell yourself and them, if you get an opportunity, I forgive you. You owe me nothing. See, when I say it's hard, but it's easy, do you understand? And this is where it gets confusing, because I know we're all sitting there and we're all thinking about how the people would hurt us. And then we're saying, well, you're just telling me that all I have to do is tell them I just got to look at the situation and say they owe me nothing. I can't do that. I understand, because you're working on your feelings. This is not about your feelings. This is about your will. They're not going to hold me prisoner anymore by what they've done to me. They're not going to hold me prisoner by what they've done to me. They owe me nothing. Forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. It has nothing to do with the other person. It's a gift that you give yourself. You say that I'm in control of my pain. It's not in control of me. Everybody with me? I'm going to finish here in a minute. We make up our mind and our hearts to let go, knowing that carrying around anger and judgment towards others or ourselves is a burden that we no longer wish to bear. It's something that I'm going to look in the mirror and say, you know what? From this day forward, that's not going to determine where I'm heading in life. That's not going to keep me parked. It's not going to keep me stopped. We're going to start the process of going through the road work ahead, and I realize it's going to be difficult, but I'm making a choice today. And every one of you can do this. I make a choice today. Do you know statistically says people that don't forgive never live a long life? They don't. Because it buries inside of them, and they make bad decisions to try to hide the pain that they carry. I don't want you carrying your pain anymore. But the only way to get over it and to get the pain there is you've got to look at the situation that's there and saying, they owe me nothing. Is this making any sense? Anybody getting anything? Because I'm struggling right now, I'll be honest with you. Is it making sense? Thank you. What happens when we forgive? Anger, resentment, bitterness will not consume us. I didn't say it will go away, but it won't consume us. How do you forgive every day? There was weeks and weeks and weeks that Mike individual, I had to get up every morning and say, because I'd have somebody chirping in my ear, you need to call the cops on him. He owes me nothing. The only time I've really thought about it is when I use it as an excuse or as an example. Not excuse, but an example. But there was days that people did me wrong. I'd have to put a name on a Post-it and put it on my mirror because I realized that it had caused me to stop in my life and that I was thinking about what they did to me more than I was thinking about what I had in life. And I'd put their name on there, and this is what I do every day. I'd let my will get in control, and I would say, such and such, this is what they did to me. They owe me nothing. In fact, some of them, I used to go, if I really had a problem with someone that did me wrong, I'd find a way to get them some money without them knowing it came from me. Give them $50 in the mail or whatever it would be. Just to challenge myself to make sure that they didn't owe me anything. So here's the question. Again, my goal today was not to make you feel sad, to make you feel mad, to try to get you where you be emotional and cry after we leave here. My goal today was to say, what's going to define you? What people have done to you? Or what you're going to do with your life? What are you going to let define you? How you can't forgive yourself instead of looking in it and realize, you know what the Bible says about who you are? He says that you are wonderfully made. You've let the pain and the anguish and the hurt where you look in the mirror and you don't even like what you see anymore. That's what that unforgiveness has done. And what I see when I look at you, beautiful young ladies and handsome, strong, smart young men. That's what I see. Sometimes I see confusion where you're confused. Sometimes I see, man, will they just let me in? Will they let us in? Will they let us pass the wall that they put up because they're stopped in front of their pain and the anguish that's there? Will they just let someone back in? Here's what we do. We quit trusting everybody. Instead of just saying, you know what? That person that did me wrong, I'm not going to trust them. I forgive them. They owe me nothing. But I'm going to give this other person an opportunity. And you know what? If they hurt me, then I'm going to forgive them because eventually I'm going to find someone that I can trust. But you know what we do? I'm not trusting anybody anymore. And we build those blocks up, and all the people that's done us wrong before we know, we have this wall in front of us, and then someone like your therapist comes along, or your case manager, or your direct care staff that comes along, or someone that comes into your life in one way or another, and the first thing you want to do is throw that wall up and say, I have no time for you because I was hurt by this individual. And what you're losing out on is the people that I believe God's put in your life to help you understand and to feel what true love is. Have I embarrassed anybody today? Have I purposely called you out to say you're bad people? Have you felt love today? Because this has come by love. I'm not judging you. You're no different than me. I got to work on this on a daily basis. I got to recognize who's hurt me at times, and if it comes back up, then I've got to redo it in my brain, say, they owe me nothing, because I'm only human. Hurting people hurt people. Who are you going to be? What decision are you going to make? Are you going to the stop sign, going to stay there? Because eventually you're going to park, and your life's not going to go any further. Or are you going to stop at the stop sign, make a decision, and you have to do it physically. You got to actually do it. I want you to work with your therapist or case managers, and I want you to write a name down. And if that name is you, then I want you to write that name down. I want you to be honest, and I want you to let them walk you through the next 2 or 3 weeks of helping you understand that you're not to blame. It's not your fault. You're forgiven. The Bible says that we are forgiven. Even before we've asked for it, we're forgiven. I'm not trying to get real churchy with you or anything, but when Jesus died on the cross, we didn't deserve it, but He did it so we would be forgiven. When will you quit carrying the load? It's too heavy for you to carry. You're not supposed to carry it. Write a name down. Let them work you through that name. Make a statement tomorrow morning when you wake up. Today when you leave. Everybody's eyes closed, no one looking around. Everybody close your eyes. I don't want no one looking around. You already have the name that's there. It's already there. It's already in your mind. You're already thinking about it. Now, the question I'm going to ask you is, will you forgive him? And if you say no, then you're stopped. You say, I can't. Yeah, you can. It's called will. I choose to. I choose to. With no one looking around, everybody's eyes closed. Is the name there in your head? Do you see it? Shake your head if it is. Is it there? Okay. Some of you are being honest with me. Some of you are not. That's all right. But it has to be something that you choose to do. I will not let what they've done to me stop me from becoming who I'm going to be. They owe me nothing. Open your eyes. I find out that when I forgive, a lot of times those relationships come back to me. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Can I pray for you? All right. Father, I've done the best that I know to do. I realize that it is a complex situation that I'm dealing with today. but you can take the difficult things and make them easy. And so I need your help to do that. I've done the best that I know to do today. Help us identify the name on the note. Help our therapists and our case managers and the workers that are here to be able to reconnect and bring this back to our mind. Let them understand that it is about the statement, they owe me nothing. I don't hold them in debt to anything. They're just people that are hurting, and they've hurt me because they're hurting. And it's not my fault. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.